Hi everyone, hope you are feeling positive and healthy. Please subscribe with bell notifications if you haven't already, and please don't hesitate to leave your valuable feedback and advice below. Thank you very much. Let's jump into the stories. Am I the unreasonable one for giving my wife an ultimatum about getting a dog? I had a dog when my wife and I got married. I loved her. She was my buddy. When my wife got pregnant, she became increasingly paranoid that the dog would be a danger to the baby. She brought up rehoming, and I refused. She was an aggressive breed, but she was trained. One day, she called me crying at work that the dog ran away and she couldn't run after her. I believed her. I looked for that dog for weeks. I finally just accepted it because we had to go to the hospital to welcome our child and there were just other pressing concerns. It's been 5 years since then, and we now have 3 children. I've wanted to get a new dog, but the kids take a lot of energy and time. My wife has always had a new excuse not to get another dog. I found out recently that my dog didn't run away. My wife and her father took the dog to the pound while I was at work because her parents agreed with her about the dog being dangerous. I'm furious. She was my dog, my baby. She wasn't dangerous. I would never have agreed to that. She probably never got adopted. I'm honestly mad enough to consider a separation if not for the kids and practical reasons. I've told her that the only way to make it up even a little bit is for us to get a dog. She ultimately doesn't want a dog at all, and complained that she would have to do too much with it. I'm not planning to let up on this one this time. Not the unreasonable one. Get a dog after you're divorced, dude. Not the unreasonable one. I can't believe she would go out of her way to make family plans to destroy your trust. I would never be with someone who disrespected me to that degree. Wow. Don't get a dog with this woman. She didn't care about getting rid of your dog before. What's to stop her from just doing the same thing again? Am I the unreasonable one for disrespecting my stepmom? I, 34 years old male, live with my little sister, let's call her Tiffany, 23 years old female, and my mom. If you're wondering why I still live at home, it's because we're Asian. We're not really expected to move out until we get married. My parents got divorced 3 years ago, because my dad, 56 years old male, cheated on my mom. Last year, my dad married the woman he cheated with. So she's now our stepmom, let's call her Jane. 26 years old female. We've only seen her a couple of times. We stayed at our dad's place for a couple of days because it was his birthday. I was watching TV with Tiffany and she fell asleep on the couch. She looked cold, so I went to get a blanket from the guest bedroom. Jane and my dad were in the dining room. When I came back, Jane started scolding me. She told me I couldn't bring the blanket out of the bedroom, and I shouldn't let Tiffany sleep on the couch. Jane told me to wake her up and tell her to sleep in the bedroom. I told her no, that doesn't make sense, and that I wouldn't do it. She got angry and said that we should just leave if we refused to respect her rules. I said okay, woke Tiffany up, and left. My dad saw the whole thing, and he was just standing there and watching. He didn't say anything, even when we left. When we got home, I explained what happened to my mom and she agreed that Jane was being stupid. Later, my dad texted my mom, saying that we disrespected Jane and demanded that we apologize. So am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. Sounds like Jane was trying to assert her dominance over you all. I'm sorry your father is choosing this miserable person over his children. ETA, what kind of a person doesn't have a throw on their couch for this exact situation? A stepmonster, that's who. Lol, no, not the unreasonable one. Your dad needs to get over himself. Jane is younger than you and barely older than Tiffany. She's the one who was trying to cause a big deal over nothing and you did the right thing by leaving the house. Would I be the unreasonable one if I called out my parents on buying my brother a $20,000 car when I put myself through school, have never received financial support and even gave them money when they needed it? I, 25 years old male, come from a low-income family and I worked really hard as I grew up. I got into a good school, took out loans, did internships, worked side jobs and never expected my parents to pay for anything. At one point during college, I had 3 part-time jobs and was working a total of 40 hours a week on top of a full career have-load, through side jobs and the fact that I was studying something very practical, computer science. I started to accrue some savings and given that my parents were still not making too much, I would occasionally give them some money or buy them something that they'd never buy themselves. I bought my entire family iPhones. I've since been doing a graduate degree and I'm not getting paid much money and my program doesn't allow me to take any part-time jobs, so I've been burning through my savings. My parents have managed to get better jobs and they're making roughly double what they were. My brother, 19 years old male, is going through college now and is having a much easier time than I did. My parents are paying for half of his tuition and he hasn't bothered to find a part-time job yet. What really bothers me though is that my parents recently bought him a car for $20,000. I asked my mom how they were able to afford such an expensive purchase and she mentioned that they've been saving a little bit, like 1k 3k a year, for the last -20 years and have been spending some of their savings lately. I then asked her, mostly joking, but I was hurt by this point, where that money was when I was in college, and she responded with, well, if you could drive we'd have bought you a car then too. I didn't get my license until after college. Yes, I understand that I didn't need a car and couldn't drive when I was in college, but I worked my ass off, gave back to my family, and would have benefited from that type of money. I'm not saying that my brother needs to have 3 jobs or pay his own tuition, but a car is way too much. It bothers me that my parents got mad at me when I bought myself a $1,000 vacation, but they bought my brother a $20,000 car. If I bring this up to my parents, I'm sure it won't end nicely. Instead, they'll say that I'm ungrateful, don't understand we didn't have much money then, am jealous of my brother, and so on. My parents will also argue that since I'm almost finished my graduate degree, I'll soon be able to buy my own car and don't need their help. But I'm not asking them to buy me a car. I'm hurt that they didn't offer that type of money when I needed help. So Reddit, would I be the unreasonable one as I called out my parents on this? I've tried to be as unbiased as possible describing the situation, but I encourage you to think from their perspective and my brother's as well. I'm not looking for validation. I legitimately don't know if they're in the wrong. Not the unreasonable one, but remember it's not what you say, but how you say it. I would sit down with your parents and let them know how you feel. The end result depends on how you handle it. You can accept it and move on, or you can let it fester and build a resentment. I found myself in a similar situation with my younger brother, but I built my own life and now I'm more independent due to it. Not the unreasonable one. I believe that financial support should be even amongst children. It's not fair for you to work your ass off to support yourself during college and then have to watch your sibling have a much easier time. Sorry you're having to go through this. Am I the unreasonable one for telling my son he can never bring his girlfriend to our house again? This is so unbelievably stupid. But here we go. I have a 19-year-old son who goes to college out of state. He has a girlfriend who goes to his school and she doesn't live in the same state as us, so they don't see each other too much when school is out. I met her once over winter break and she seemed fine, a little quiet and awkward, but I didn't have a problem with her. Well, they hadn't seen each other in months because of COVID and he wanted her to come and visit for a week. I was fine with this and the first 3 days went well. Last night I had a few people over and people were drinking. I don't care if my son drinks as long as he is in the house and responsible. At around midnight they were hungry and she was going to make pancakes. I guess while she was cooking he thought it would be funny to break one of the eggs in her hair. She went ballistic. She screamed at him and she ended up calling the police. They did send out an officer, who seemed pissed to be there, and my husband had to talk to him since we are the homeowners. The police officer pretty much said she was wasting his time and left. I told her how stupid it was and my husband said she needed to leave in the morning because she has terrible judgment and we don't want her in our house. She did leave this morning and I told my son she is not welcome back. Now maybe if they get married in 5 years or something I might reevaluate, but my son thinks I'm being unfair. Not the unreasonable one. Your son is a little obnoxious for breaking an egg on her head, but that definitely doesn't justify calling the police, disturbing you and your husband, and potentially your neighbors as well. Those police lights are bright and would definitely wake up some neighbors. I feel like there's info missing here. How did your son respond when she started screaming at him? Did she just get upset and immediately call the police, or did the situation escalate between the egg incident and when she called? Am I the unreasonable one for refusing to move to a different alternative apartment after just moving in even though management keeps asking me to because there are complaints? Kind of a long one. Just moved into an apartment, it's barely been 2 months. Way it's set up is the downstairs part is rented to an old lady. The upstairs part is a 3-bedroom space that's perfect for my family. Recently just moved in after moving to a whole different state. The old lady has had a problem with us since before we hadn't even moved in. When we just came to the house to see it with a friend, she approached the friend and was extremely haughty and wanted to know exactly who we were and weird things like that, like we were suspicious. Now that we have moved in, she is constantly complaining to management and has made the prime complaint my kids, 5 and 3. The older child is autistic, and while he understands most things, he's nonverbal and a little hard to control, and I'm trying my best. The old lady keeps calling management on us because he's running and jumping upstairs and she can't ever rest and it's so loud and hard for her. She wants me to control my kids and I am trying my best, but I can't put them on a leash or shut them inside a room. She keeps treating us like we're hostile and suspicious, while zoning on my kids doing completely normal kid things, and I've tried to take them out, or have them play at their aunt's house sometimes, but nothing is enough for her. Management was also kind of iffed out at her constant complaints, but to appease her, they offered to give us a downstairs area in a different house. That would not work out for us, since we need 3 bedrooms and downstairs units only have 2. They then offered a townhouse all to us, but the rent is way higher and we can't afford that at the moment. I feel like an a-hole for constantly refusing to move out because she is an old lady, no matter how she treats us, and if she is really that disturbed I want to do something to help. But I can't move out and she's complaining about how we won't leave. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. You signed a lease for that space, it's yours, but there's a message in their continued desire to help relocate you. You'd be taking a risk by not working with them. BC, they probably will not renew if you do not. So all you're doing now is delaying the inevitable until the lease ends. Everyone sucks here. Why isn't management offering her a different place to live? Wibta for calling out her friend for acting like my son's mom. So I'm about ready to completely flip my lid on her and am partially posting on here to vent so that I don't. Buckle up, it's probably worse than the title makes it sound. So I have a friend, more of my son's dad's friend, but still, who we'll call Mandy, 28 years old female. She's usually pretty flaky and kinda useless when it comes to babysitting. She'll leave before I'm supposed to get her help. She'll let him get into things he's not supposed to, and instead of actually disciplining him she will scream at him. I have some really bad problems with my hips, making it hard to walk, let alone chase a toddler. She does help run after him if he's outside playing, which I appreciate. The other day she said come to mom, I mean auntie, which absolutely enrages me because we both almost died in labor and she doesn't actually do much even for an aunt figure. Every time a stranger starts talking about him, Mandy will talk over me as if she's the mother. Mandy also tries to parent him even after I have already taken care of him, or she will go behind my back and change what I have already done or have asked others to do. I ask my son's dad to put him in a swimming diaper so we can take him to the pool. Mandy tells him to just put my son in a regular diaper. She knows my plan and that he can't go in without a swim diaper on. Is it worth calling her out or should I let it go? Also, to clarify a few things, me and my son's dad are in a weird place. We are focusing on co-parenting. Once our son is a bit older we might try to rekindle things. Also, Mandy and my son's dad are not together. My son's dad is just extremely dense and hasn't noticed it until I started calling it out in front of him. More information, he'll be 2 in December. Most daycares are still shut down thanks to the virus, and all of the individual people who babysit around here are either too expensive or completely booked and take the kids of essential workers first. Unfortunately, she's one of my only options, so I'm hoping that she takes the talk well. Partial update. So my son's dad actually noticed it on his own and called her out on it. I'm surprised and actually really happy at his progress. I have not spoken to her myself yet, but I plan on doing that later tonight. Have a talk with your kid's dad about how weird this friend is and if he has noticed it too. I would suggest limiting her from your kid, she is weird. Not the unreasonable one. I've been in a similar situation with a neighbor that used to watch my son. Sounds like she's crossing a few lines here. I had to cut ties with my neighbor, but maybe having a firm, but respectful heart-to-heart and addressing these issues will stop the behavior. If she continues to ignore your wishes, it may be time to find someone else to help. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.